And joining me now from Washington, D.C. to discuss this further is Bradley Bowman, the Senior Director of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracy Center on Military and Political Power. Bradley, before we get to Russia and China, just how serious is this latest arrest warrant issued by the ICC for Putin? Could it actually result in the jailing of the Russian leader, or is it purely symbolic?
Thank you for the question. For my part, I think it's an important statement of fact, and that is that what Vladimir Putin is doing in Ukraine is an unprovoked and immoral war that certainly to the layman appears like crimes against humanity. So I think it's important to call a spade, to call wrong, wrong, and right, right. I wouldn't hold my breath. I don't think Vladimir Putin's going to be arrested anytime soon, but he may want to think twice now about international travel.
And speaking of international travel, not necessarily for him, but what is the significance here of Xi traveling to Moscow? Is China finally taking a clearer side in this war?
I think it's additional evidence that's been growing in recent months and years of the close relationship between China and Russia. That's closer than it's been since the 1950s. So we've seen China purchasing discounted Russian oil. We've seen China echoing Vladimir Putin's talking points about the war in Ukraine. We've seen China proposing a peace plan that calls for everything under the sun other than an unconditional withdrawal of Russian forces from this largest invasion in Europe since World War II. So what I hope doesn't happen is that they call for a ceasefire, because that would simply lock in place the might makes right authoritarian land grab that Vladimir Putin has undertaken in Ukraine.
Now, Chinese policy on the war in Ukraine seems to be shifting, with the West incredibly concerned that Beijing could possibly supply Moscow with arms. How likely is a scenario like this?
You know, I think that would be horrible for Ukrainians who have already suffered so much. It would provide additional means that Vladimir Putin could use to kill Ukrainians and destroy Ukrainian infrastructure. I think China may want to think twice before they do this, because this would increase opposition in Europe regarding China and make their talking points about territorial integrity even more suspect than they already are.
An even bigger change, perhaps, if I may be so bold, Bradley, is China trying its hand at effective diplomacy. It is evidently an economic power, but why is it trying now to be a bigger player when it comes to political power and sway? Is this an attempt to potentially match America's soft power?
You know, China views itself as the Middle Kingdom, and it views the last 200 years as the anomaly, not the norm. So it sees itself returning to the center of the international stage, if you will, as a natural thing. We've seen China play a very important role in the recent announcement about the possibility of restored ties between Saudi Arabia and Iran, playing a growing role in the Middle East. And now they're trying to play a growing role in Europe as well. So China has all kinds of metrics of power, and they're trying to increase their diplomatic power as well.
And speaking of that diplomacy, Xi Jinping will also be meeting with Zelensky, although this meeting is set to be online. How effective of a mediator could China be in this conflict, more so than the United States and possibly even Israel? We know that Zelensky has reached out to Israel, as has Putin in the past, to be a potential mediator.
China is not a neutral arbiter between Russia and Ukraine. Any suggestion that they are is frankly a joke. You know, Ukraine continues to exist as a country despite this invasion because of the bravery of the Ukrainian people, and frankly, because of American weapons. I think Zelensky understands that. And China is going to try to make a go of it here, but it's clear where they stand. They've picked sides with Vladimir Putin in this unjust war.
Bradley Bowman, thanks as always for your insight and coming on to the program this evening.
Thank you.